industry, right? 1 minute, we'll just go live. We are live on YouTube. Hi everyone, thank you for joining into this session. So the objective of this session is to explain you the selection process at Deep Thought and what we do at Deep Thought and so on. So Deep Thought as a company is working towards the vision of transforming every school and every college into an MIT Harvard style research institute. Now, why do that? The answer is simple. So today we talk of academia industry gap. That is, whatever the colleges are teaching, we feel that there's a gap between what the industry expects. But if you look at Stanford University, they've created the Silicon Valley. Faculty at Stanford University were encouraging their students to not go for jobs, but to start a company of their own. And Professor Rajiv Motwani, a professor at Stanford, he had mentored more than 100 startups in Silicon Valley. In fact, he was the first mentor for Google. Most Indians do not know about him, but he was the first mentor for Google. He wrote the business model for them and the algorithm also for Google. So in that sense, what if we transform every college in the world into a research institute? Then we'll be having more people who are thinkers, not just doing copy-paste jobs, because copy-paste jobs can be safely given to AI. We need humans who can be creative. So if every college and every school around the world can be a research institute, that's when this kind of future is possible. That's the vision of Deep Thought. Now, how are we going there? We as a company, we are into L&D space. That is, we give learning solutions for employees of companies. We used to work with school children. Now we don't work with school children. We're working with corporate employees, because in a product company, right, a software oriented product company, you need people with a lot of creativity. You need people with higher order thinking skills, right? You need people who are comfortable with abstraction. And today's school education does not prepare people for that kind of thinking. So our LMS actually helps corporate employees in developing that, higher order thinking. So that's the product we guys are working. So naturally, for building a product like this, we need fresh thinking. So we don't hire experienced people. We usually try, there are some experienced people we've hired, but largely, I think we hire youngsters who bring in that fresh thinking, who are curious. We try to hire people who have that enthusiasm towards learning, who want to learn, right? That Baba Ranchordas kind of youngsters we look for. We know they're rare. Our education system makes everybody driven by incentive. We do not want incentive driven people, but insight driven people. Not incentive driven people कि मुझे क्या मिलेगा ये करने से, what do I get by doing this? We do not want that kind of people, right? We want people who are driven by insight. What can I get to learn by doing this, and so on. So on this, I hope this sets a context for all of you. On this note, I'd like to invite my colleagues to share their story of why they come into Deep Thought, what have they been learning so far, and what are they looking forward to. So if one of you wants to go ahead first, you get your 2 minutes. Yeah. Who wants to start? Okay, Palash, please go ahead. Yeah.
So what brought me into Deep Thought was I came in through internshala, and when I was going through the different internships, this one had very interesting job description. So it was looking for people who want to develop curriculum, not for futuristic learning, and this phrase really caught my eye. That what does futuristic learning mean? And when I joined in, uh, seeing the students' joy during the classes, seeing the level of discussions, classes of students in grades third, fourth, and fifth, they're having intense discussions with Tarun, with me, and with people who have passed, who are in their colleges or passed their colleges, and that made me really connect with the company. And more, and as days passed by, my fondness or my love for this company grew, and I'm still here after one year. That's my story.
Thank you, Palash. Who wants to go in next? We'll have a Q&A session once all of them just give an introductory speech. Yeah. Yeah, Shagun, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I am Shagun. I joined as a software developer in month of April. And when I joined, I was pretty much clear about data structure and algorithm. And in my computer science system, I just want to do research and explore something. And DT provides me a platform to explore my subject along with that concept that we are going to help students, and will bring out a system through which we can learn, we can give an idea of learn for learning. So in DT, I got to know how I can learn different subjects. Here, we are working on the conceptual learning, abstraction, modularity, and lots of things we are working on. And this is my story, how I came in DT.
Thank you, Shagun. Anyone else wants to go?
Can I?
Yeah, Shagun, please go ahead.
Okay. So myself, Shawan. So I joined DT around, I think it's already been a year. So I joined initially as a backend developer, but thing is that like with time, I was not stuck with backend, but I moved into full stack development. So yeah, that's all about my technical skills. But now I would like to highlight some key things that I learned during this. So basically, see, the main point is you might be working for any company, right? But only the thing that you will be exposed is that tiny part that you're assigned. But here, I I saw an initial project idea and I saw how the project moves into execution. I was able to see how the project is divided into chunks assigned to everyone, and I saw a full-fledged project coming out from the ideation phase to the actual phase. So that's about project, and I also learned how to take a project as my own. I mean, how to get the ownership of a project, and I could also see the big picture of the project. So as I mentioned, right, in any other company, you will just get a tiny chunk of the project and you will be asked to work on it. But here, you can see the entire big picture of the project. You can see the entire project as a whole, and you can actually experience like how this project is going to work, okay, after it's developed. So this is about the project. And the next thing that I learned is about, I mean, see, in coding, we always listen about the topics called as abstraction. We read about structures, right? But see, that's not only based to the code level. These things also work in real life, right? If I tell you about the topic of abstraction, this also can be implemented in real life. And you can use, I mean, you can use this concept in your real life to execute stuff. So I learned these concepts, not only just coding, but also how to use them in real life. And I also learned about like how to structureize things and like put those things into execution. So yeah, like these were a few things that I could bring up right now, but I'm sure there are a lot of things that you could experience if you join DT.
Okay. Thank you, Shawan. I'm sure I have a few questions for you, but after the presentations. Yeah, who wants to go in next?
Yeah, I would like to go in. So I joined as DT as, I mean, 1.5 years back. So as a researcher for emotional intelligence and curriculum development. At that time when DT was, all the products that are coming live now, they were at an R&D phase. So at that time, while interacting with school students and teachers, parents, and the interns here, uh, I picked up different heuristics and mental models, approaches to, how to approach different problems. And when I look back now, I see that, I have gained that thought process, different types of thought processes, and my articulation, how to articulate something, a very new product or a very new idea, that has improved. And I can see that uh, I can abstract out better now. So these are some of the things, some cross-functional, while working on some cross-functional projects, I picked up some of these things, which is right now currently, helping me in my role as a technical product manager. So right now, when I get to know a new product or something, to get that vision, it's far more easy now than it was before. So it's helping me greatly here in, managing the product and all. So yeah, this has been my journey.
Thank you, Sriparna. I'm sure a lot of new words which have been introduced, and I hope they come up in the Q&A session. Yeah, Nirban, over to you.
Yeah, hello everyone. So I joined Deep Thought because of because of the product that Deep Thought was developing, that I came to know even before I joined Deep Thought. And that was like my fascination, to work on a product, on our flagship product that, as I saw it back then, it's like a GitHub for human thought. So, and to give you a background, I have a graduation. I graduated in bachelor's. I started my master's in psychology, only started. And then I joined Deep Thought as a UX researcher. Before that, I had no experience in UX or anything. So 15th August will be my 1 year. And since then, initially I worked on the wireframes, and then moving on to the complete product and testing, all that. But what I saw that Deep Thought was working on, that got validated only when, after I watched a few of our Socratic dialogues and saw how our students interacted with even industry professionals. So that gave me the conviction of, working hard towards this objective that we have even more. And initially, even though I was only doing wireframes and micro level stuff, but as Shaban said, slowly you grow into it, and you come up with you visualize the entire thing. And once you do that, it's not just a technical role anymore. So yeah, that's my story.
Thank you, Anirban. Who wants to go in next?
Yeah. So for me, I joined as a front-end developer, but currently,
You're on mute, Arvaz.
yeah, sorry. Yeah. So as I was saying, I joined as a front-end developer in February. But currently, I do front-end UI, and sometimes I do backend. Very rarely, but yeah, sometimes. And so how I describe Deep Thought on a daily is, it's chaotic, but it's also consistent growth. So a lot of times something will come up suddenly, but even if not, there's constantly something going on. So we have LDI, which is a leadership development initiative. So there we'll be trying to learn about leadership. We'll be discussing leadership. You'll pose as leaders and help others as a leader. And we have Socratic dialogues and many other stuff, which will constantly keep you on your toes in different ways, and not just like in those drills, but even in your work. No one wants to settle with anything that we have great products already, but no one is settling with them. Everyone is constantly trying to see how we can make it more fun, or how we can include more things to like help people learn from it, or how we can make it more easier in some way or another. Every product of ours is always developing, always been. And just development does not only mean that, okay, we are making this product better, but we are trying to make the product more abstract, so that we can inculcate that product into other places without making our developers go through too much effort every time that it needs to be present somewhere else. So it's always construction and reconstruction, and yeah, it's always constant growth. And that's what I love about Deep Thought, and why I enjoy working every day.
So what we'll do is I'll pose one question to all six of you. And after this 6 questions are done, then we'll open it up to people, the participants here, so they could raise questions too. And those of you who are joining us live on YouTube, you can send us your questions in the chat, and we'll be happy to take some of the questions there as well. Okay. So my first question is to Arbaz. So Arbaz, could you elaborate more on what did you mean by make it so abstract so you can inculcate it elsewhere?
So like, for example, if we have a landing page, right? So if you have a landing page, generally you'll make a different landing page as per your need, right? Yeah. If you have a promotional message, you'll write a separate one for each event or something. But what we try to do is we try to have it so that we'll take data from the user and from as like the person who is promoting it, that what this is about, and we'll find the, through automation, we'll find how this relates to the user and how it's helps the user. So and that like, and we'll just have the actual, the message is not really a message anymore. It's a template over which it all the promotion is built. So in this is one example, but anything we are building, we always try to, first of all, even while building, we'll think of how it can be brought into other things, and if even after it's built, we'll see that how it can be like adapted into other stuff. So we have one product called DTthon where we use a lot of the other assets to showcase the user's learnings in one place.
Thank you, Arbaz. So now over to Palash. So Palash, could you tell us more about your journey from a teacher to a tech person? So teaching to tech, what was the transition like?
Okay, so I started as a teacher, and by teaching and by learning from students, I grew a deeper understanding of the problem that we are trying to solve. I see that some students have that ideal that we strive for. They have it very, it's very natural to them, and we were trying to solve that problem that uh, everyone should be able to pick up those natural learning processes. So we created a product for that, and basically through teaching, I developed a formal definition of the problem that we're trying to solve, and how can we not reduce it, but convert it into codes or a technical product. So it's a very natural progression that I learned from students, and I tried to make it available to everyone. So that those learning process translated to wireframes, and now I'm learning a little bit of coding and good habits of how to make these products from the software developers that I'm working with.
So now over to Shagun. So Shagun, what did you mean by learning how to learn subjects?
Yeah, initially, what we did, we just learned the concept and all. But here in DT, I learned how to synthesize our learning. That day you told, I just wrote a note and throw it away. So in all over the world, I don't think if students wrote a note and throw it away. Here I learned how we can learn without pen and paper. Means we have to learn it through our mind. If I'm not working on something, but in my mind there is something going on, if I'm working on any data model or anything, so something is going on, okay, we can do like that, we can do like that. Without any pen, paper, and without any laptop, we can think around it. So in DT, I learned how we could think continuously while working on our daily task and everything. So we can do it for any subject, anything we are learning or anything we are doing. So this is the synthesis of learning that I gained from DT. You are on.
Yeah, thank you, Shagun. So now moving to Anirban. So Anirban, you said that it's only in the Socratic dialogue that you could see that evidence of this entire model of learning. So could you take us through that emotion which you experienced when you went through the Socratic dialogue?
Yeah, so in the first Socratic dialogue, I remember being, kind of shocked, to be honest. Like, it was, the emotion frankly was shock that children of 5 class 5 or 6 were speaking to industry professionals and answering their questions like they were, trained in business management or something. So yeah, I mean, and the way they form their answers, the way they connect the threads together, the students, and can proactively participate in that discussion. It was a joy and a shock. I mean, before that, I never could imagine that that will be I thought that DT was having a lot of impact, but that was the first time I saw it with my own eyes. And yeah, it took me a while to get to understand how DT's model actually transformed students into that stage.
Okay, thank you, Anirban. So now moving to Sriparna. So Sriparna, you mentioned that a lot of the products that Deep Thought has today, when you're joined, those are all being discussed, right? So we are going to do this, we're going to do that, and so on. So what is that feeling to be there in that journey from conceptualization till execution?
Yeah, so I mean, when we were discussing these seemed like possibilities, ideas of some sort, and then it was like slowly the concept or the idea taking shape. Uh, it happened. I think some of the things which were being discussed then might have changed a lot, might have transformed a lot, and now the product is something with a different feel. But I think seeing that idea come into life now as a product, that emotion I think is very special to me.
Thank you, Sriparna. I'm sure it is quite special to all of us here. So over to you, Shavan, for the last question before we open it up to the participants. So Shavan, I understand that you're now reading up about microservice architecture and design systems and so on. So why is it that you got interested in this topic now? Yeah.
Well, what I feel is, see, if I am doing backend development, I am doing front end development, that's fine. But you cannot always do backend or front end development, right? Like, the thing is that I always try to explore things that I don't know, that I don't understand, right? So as right now I'm leading a 25-member team, right? So it's not only about coding or doing something. It's like looking beyond the picture. It's like, what will happen after 1 year? What will happen with this product after there is like a lot of users? So I always try to find out a way so that we can, like, right now we try to find out like how can we scale it. I mean, and we also try to, I was trying to find out ways like how we can, divide the architecture into smaller chunks, so that what happens if one part is affected, the others don't get affected. So I was basically trying out some ways. I was trying to read about some parts that would help in the application to be more scalable, or it can be more robust, right? So that's why I was exploring about a lot of things, new things, so that like in a long run the technology survives. It's not like there is a ton of users coming in and the thing breaks. So I know it's a long way to go, but if we start right now, I think it will be good. Like, we'll have more iterations and we can work on it more.
Okay. So thank you, Shavan, and thank you all of you for these wonderful presentations and wonderful answers. So before you all go in with your questions, I'd like to present that, I think just two ideas which I want to present to you. First is the idea of mediocrity versus meritocracy. So as a society, the mainstream society has gravitated so much towards mediocrity that we fail to even believe that something bigger is possible. So at Deep Thought, I think it's about picking up youngsters who have that fire in them, who've got that humility and who've got that ability to learn new things, and seeing these youngsters as tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's CEOs, tomorrow's CTOs, tomorrow's various CXOs, IAS officers, and so on. This is what has been driving Deep Thought for a really long time. And if you watch our Socratic Dialogue videos, I'm sure you'd be shocked too. But again, to Anirban, I think even to be shocked, it takes some intellect, because a lot of people don't get what the kids are talking. And that, again, is the reason why this kind of education is needed, because majority of human population doesn't even understand what is strategy and policy level thinking. We'd like to pick youngsters who understand the importance of strategy and policy level thinking, who can grow as leaders, who can drive various corporations around. And the second idea which I want to introduce you to is a lot of people who come in, the relationship between software and a person is a relationship of money for a lot of people. A lot of people want to do software because it pays good money or gives good dowry, or unfortunately, that's the reason why a lot of people have come into software. But software is such a fantastic subject to learn, right? You can impact millions of lives around the world by building one single application, which can bring efficiency into how something is done, right? So today we have more than 100 unicorns in India, and you see this happening at a scale. So we look for people who are driven by that sheer joy of real world problem solving, who want to learn, build, and impact. Learn, build, impact. So I think that's why we've got a long selection process through which we pick the people who are very pure in intention. Because a lot of people are not very pure in intention. But if you want to change the world, I think we need an army of people who are pure in intention. Because Deep Thought doesn't want to be a company. Deep Thought wants to be a think tank which is changing the world. The people who are associated with Deep Thought, they may not stay with Deep Thought, they may go to work for some other company later as well. But it's this thought process which has to spread across the world. So that is why, culture is very important for us. That when we select people itself, we take them through so many tasks, observation process, and so many levels to see if the person has the truth in him or her. So if I have to condense all of Deep Thought selection process to one word, I think my one word would be truth. Do you have truth in you? Are you going for that incentive or are you going for that insight? So on this note, I think this is the story which we all wanted to share before you. You guys can share your questions in chat. We'll pick up some of those questions now. So you guys can keep sharing your questions in chat. So we'll pick up some of the questions from there. And those who are watching us live on YouTube, you can send your questions there as well in the comments on YouTube. We'll be happy to take them up. So please send your questions on chat. We'll be happy to take up your questions. Okay. There's also one problem when we hire for software developers. The questions are so very transactional. But if I had some psychology students on the call, I would have had lovely questions purely just to explore, right? Okay, I think it's a good question coming in from Ganesh Govind. So Arbaz, what do you mean by experience is chaotic?
Yeah, what I mean by chaotic is, firstly, there's something going on at any time. But also, like even in general work, no product is ever seen as perfect. Right? We take our time in making a great product. We always, have a lot of R&D going into it. We may put in a lot of work into our UI in every phase. Even while coding, we'll be very careful about following good practices and all such stuff. But even then, once by conventional means it's completely built. Even then, we'll always keep it on the board to try and evolve it even more in whatever way it may be. In that way, you can't settle with anything. So that's why I call it chaotic.
Okay. Thank you, Arbaz. So it's like 8 to 9 people just asked what is the selection process. So everybody on the link, remember I used the word mediocrity. There you have it. Our school education system has taught people to spoon feed, right? We thrive on spoon feeding, don't we? Most of us, where there's a question bank and you by heart that question bank, go write answers based on the question bank, rather than actually trying to explore something and figure it out. I mean, it's so disappointing that a lot of young India thrives on spoon feeding. You want to know the selection process, the link is shared with you. Go through that link. That link has all the selection process described over there, right? So it will be a lot more interesting if good questions are asked based on what people have presented. So you understand the learning experience here. If your questions are transactional, don't even bother asking about the selection process because you'll not make it. Now, this is not true of just Deep Thought. I think I'm speaking for a lot of innovation companies out there. So on LinkedIn, you see a lot of rants where people go and keep scolding the selection process and why they're doing interviews that way. Because the idea is when you're trying to hire software developers for an innovation environment, I think their ability to handle ideas, their ability to work at the level of ideas is more important than skill set. Skill set can be picked up in 1 to 2 days, but what is very difficult is to pick up that thought process, and more than that, that ability to think of ideas and the ability to discuss ideas. So the ones who don't enjoy ideas, I think this role is not meant for you. So I think that's one fundamental difference between product environments and service environments, right? So in service companies, what happens? You get a product requirement, wireframes are clearly defined, code, deliver. Then again, you get one more client, code, deliver. So that's like a copy paste kind of environment. And India produces world-class donkeys, right? Which is why companies want to outsource their software development to India. So, but we feel at Deep Thought that India can be different, that we can have product innovation in India as well. So I hope we can have more of questions around the ideas which some of our young folks just discussed. Question for Anirban, from where you learned UX design, and okay, how much it takes, let's not take that at, again, stupid question in a way, that I think that this wonderful ways to learn UX without having to pay, right? If you're really passionate about it, if you can self-learn. But Anirban, I'll let you take that. How did you learn UX research?
I looked it up. Basically, I looked it up. I got into Deep Thought as a UX researcher only because, I wanted to get into and work on our flagship product. But during the selection process, I got to know what I will have to know to make it here as a UX researcher, and studied online, took help from my team leads back then, took help from our mentors, and just paid attention in the meetings with our mentor. That's it.
Okay. There are a lot of questions about hiring from Bangladesh. We hire people from anywhere in the world, provided they align with the thought process, because this thought process is very rare. Out of every 1,000 people who apply on Internshala, probably 5 to 6 suit this thought process. So wherever you are, I think if you're a curious person driven by ideas, I think we'll be happy to pick you up. So there's one interesting question about how Deep Thought makes sure that the employees are working well, and about mental health. So Sriparna, if I can request you to take this. Yeah.
So I remember one thing I learned from a colleague of mine. It's like whenever I got any new project, I got so excited, I got so kind of addicted to it. I used to work overtime. So what happened was my colleague, told me that you want to work for long. I know Deep Thought is very addictive, but please take care of your time and manage your time well. We want you for a long time, so don't get burnt out. So I think Deep Thought environment is such that whenever we see that someone is overworking themselves, we we immediately try to resolve that, because we know what is going to come after a while. So I think the community takes care of this thing.
I hope that answers the question. We are taking questions. So in case you're following us on YouTube, okay, what technologies does Deep Thought work on? Our stack is Node.js on the back end, MongoDB, Express.js is the framework, and then we've got JavaScript on the front end. It's vanilla JavaScript that we work on, and we use jQuery on top of vanilla JavaScript. So this is the stack which we're currently working on, and our mobile app is built on React Native. So next question, if anyone has. So the timings, I think we college students typically work 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. College students typically work 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock. But otherwise, we also, our full timers work 11 o'clock to 9 o'clock IST. Do you need any certification to work in deep thought? Do you need any certification to work in deep thought? That's a question. I hope by now you understood that we're actually looking for human beings. If I have to put it sarcastically, we're looking for human beings, but it's so difficult to get human beings, right? We only get certified robots out there in selection process. So we want people who have that genuine drive to learn something, to figure out things on their own and so on. So, which is, I mean, to be honest, we don't even ask for a resume anywhere. So we are into the recruitment space right now. We help some other companies also hire. And what most company founders find it very baffling is that I don't look at resumes at all when I hire people. Because I know most of the resumes are fake. They copy pasted from the internet. There's nothing you get to know about the candidate by reading a resume anyway. So rather, we put people into a situation, we give very good assignments. The assignments are real world problem solving, and we ask people to solve those assignments. So if somebody is able to solve that assignment, I know that person can get my job done. Then we put everyone through an observation process through which we understand the psychology of the candidate, the mental makeup of the candidate. So if we believe that this person has that mental makeup, we hire. It's kind of like UPSC selection process, right? For IAS officers, you look at the personality and the temperament of the person a lot more than the skill set. So if we want to hire someone for an innovation environment, I think we need somebody with that temperament. Deep thought is definitely not meant for every Tom, Dick, and Harry, but we look for the people with a genuine drive. And in case you have any juniors in college in first year or second year who's super hungry for success, for learning, do let them know that we are hiring, because we're very keen on picking up first year and second year students, because we see that as the college, the number of years progress, the hunger and the ambition in the people declines. The more time you spend in college, the mediocrity sinks in more and more. So no certification, nothing. As long as we see that curiosity and that ability to learn, I think we pick up people. Well, if you feel that you do not have that technological skills already, you can apply for the beginner track. I believe one selection process link is given to you called beginner track. If you come in as a beginner, all that we look for is your ability to learn. And we give you 1 month duration to learn, while you can learn different topics and have a discussion with our team. And you can start your intern, you get your joining letter, but you start your internship 1 month later. And during that 1 month, you keep interacting with our team on a regular basis and get up to speed with the skills. So we hire beginners too. In fact, we look forward to beginners, because then we can help someone learn with a clean slate, right? As opposed to somebody who needs a lot of unlearning and relearning. Because one problem with Udemy and all these platforms is a lot of garbage comes in when people learn from these platforms in a very rule-based approach rather than a conceptual approach. Which is the main reason why I'm looking to hire first-year BTech students even before they learn their C, C++. So we can teach them computer science the way they've got to learn it. Yeah. So Katyayani, just to add on to your question, in most product environments, companies actively look forward to the welfare of the people out there. Because in a service environment, what happens is you're probably working on a project for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and then next project and so on. But in a product environment, people are working on the same product for 3 years, 4 years, and so on. One of the product managers I was talking to, he was telling me this. Somebody who jumps companies every 1 year will become a very good software engineer, but may not become a good problem solver, may not grow in beyond a point. That person may not grow in software, because only when you stick to one product for 2 to 3 years, I think you'll have that real ability to solve problems, because you would have immersed yourself into that one problem. It takes some time to immerse yourself into that problem, as Anirban and Shravan have just mentioned. So naturally, we don't want people to be short sprinters. We want them to be long runners. Right? So it's like we're not looking for those Jamaican athletes, we're looking for those Kenyan marathon runners, right? In that sense. So which is why wellness of everyone is important, so people can have that long marathon, because products take time to get built. Yeah, please keep sending in your questions. I think we have time for 2 more questions. Keep sending in your questions. By the way, one of the things we look for is questioning. Most product companies look for this too. People who can ask questions. That's again, most BTech students, you don't get questions, right? Yeah, anyone can join as a beginner. You have a beginner selection process. Just go through that link and you have the instructions there. You can complete those instructions. What technology are we working on? It was already answered. You may go through this link on YouTube once again and get the question answered. Yeah. Next question. Come on, people. A lot of wonderful ideas were presented by these folks, and I'm sure some good questions can come in around that. One thing which is important in a product environment is curiosity, because you're building something new which doesn't exist in the world, right? So a lot of questions come in so that you can conceptualize the product and then execute it. What do you expect from me? I hope there is kind of evident from what people were speaking. So the software developers get into the brainstorming sessions. They understand what is the product being built. They document the expectations of the product. Then they make a project plan for how the product is supposed to be done. Then they go start coding. We initially make what is called an MVP, a minimum viable product. So after the MVP is built, we give it to some early users. We see how the early users are reacting to it. Then we fine tune it based on that reaction. So initially we don't try to build too much. We don't even invest on a UI initially. Just build something which can be made in just 1 week. Give it to some people, let them react to it. Then you see if it's solving the problem. You understand where the disconnect is. Then you go back, make a plan again and build it. And once you feel the product is doing well, you start working on optimizing the UX. So this is the journey which, with this kind of like the software cycle, which we follow to make sure we build great products. So in case you guys have not read this book already, I would encourage you to read this book called 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel, which talks of how you build that first innovation in the world, right? Not a copy paste product, but something new which doesn't exist in the world. So this is how you build that 0 to 1 products. Start with an MVP, give it to some early users, get reactions there, and learn from it, iterate, make the next version, again learn from it, iterate. Once you're convinced, you start stabilizing the UX, you stabilize how the product functions and so on. You're not a BTech student, you're a BA student. Brilliant. I think anyone who loves software engineering, I think we're happy to hire. If you already are exposed to JavaScript or Node.js, you can attempt that selection process. If you're not exposed, you can take the beginner selection process and learn with us. And in case after you join us, in case you feel software is not your cup of tea and you want to do something else, we let people change roles as well, right? Because for us, the culture alignment is more important than anything else, because we're very keen that we don't hire robots. And when we go into BTech, it's kind of like 95% you're already converted into robots already, right? That's how the colleges operate. One of our colleagues, Saksham, I think he's an economics and psychology student. He was interested in software development. He's been working with us for about 5 months now. So we do have people. Shavan, you're a BSc student, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shavan doesn't have a BTech either. He leads our tech team. And I'm sure he can beat most of the BTech students with his understanding of JavaScript and Node.js. So I think we're pretty much domain agnostic. You could be studying any subject. As long as we feel that you have the personality that we're looking for and you have the ability to learn and you're interested in software development, then I think we're happy to work with you. Interested in software development, that's a big ask, huh? Because a lot of people get into software just because of the money in it, not because they're interested in software. Money is a byproduct always. But what is important is that you're able to see the beauty of the subject and build great products out of it. Yeah, so that's pretty much it from our end. Yeah, I'm a beginner in the software field, but have a long career break you're mentioning. Yeah, so we do hire people with WorkX as well. But then usually for people with work experience, it gets very tough because emotionally it is very challenging to unlearn and relearn. So if you think you have that emotional composure to unlearn and relearn, we'll be open to working with you. But let me make it clear that for people who are slightly older, I think it gets very tough. Gets very challenging to unlearn and relearn, which is why we usually prefer younger people, because if someone is young, the ability to unlearn and relearn is much more. Yeah. So people, I hope you've understood what we've explained. So we look for people with that culture alignment, people who are curious and who want to learn and so on. If you are not curious, but you're looking for an internship, don't waste your time by applying to us, because our selection process is designed very well so that we identify youngsters who are into software because they love software. You're passionate about software, you want to learn, you're that weird person in your friend circle who's always thinking differently, and your friends are like, why do you keep asking so many questions? Then I think we're looking for you. So if you think you're weird, you get into deep thought, you'll not feel weird anymore, because you'll be in the company of 40 other people who are weird. So almost everybody in deep thought here, there's one thing in common, that in their own friend circle and family network, they're considered very weird. But 40 such people in the same organization and the same Zoom link every day, that defines deep thought, and that's how careful we are in selecting people. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us. You can go through the link which we sent to you to complete the selection process. And I hope you enjoy the selection process. There's some very creative tasks given to you through the selection process. Take care, everyone. Thank you for joining me.